Hello, welcome back to Weekly Wildlife Wisdom. As always, I'm your host, Zero Yeti, and this is the channel, Factutainment. We're going to get into it, and we're going to start off with a rather unique little animal called the silver Dik-Dik, which is a small antelope found in low, dense thickets along the southeastern coast of Somalia and the Acacia Comphora bushland in the Shebele Valley of southeastern Ethiopia. At under 5 pounds in weight, it is the smallest of the four species of Dik-Dik. They usually live in territories around 12 acres in size that are near stream beds covered in low, shrubby bushes and large rocks to provide cover. Dik-Diks are monogamous, living in strictly bonded pairs. Conflicts between territorial neighbors are rare. When they do occur, though, the males from each territory dash at each other, stop short, vigorously nod their heads, and turn around. They will repeat this process, increasing the distance each time until one stops. Dik-Diks mate twice a year, with the survival rates of the babies being around 50%. The young stay concealed for a time after birth, like most deer, hiding in the undergrowth and grasses. But they grow relatively quickly and reach full size by 7 months. At that age, the young are forced to leave their parents' territory. Fathers run off their sons and mothers run off their daughters. Next up is the Kamchatka brown bear, or Ursus arctos beringius. It is a unique blonde subspecies of brown bear closely related to the Alaskan brown bear. It is also known as the Far Eastern brown bear and is possibly the ancestor of the Kodiak bear. It was classified as Ursus arctos subspecies in 1851 by zoologist Alexander von Middendorf. That sounds like a Marvel villain. The Kamchatka Peninsula is home to the largest population of bears on Earth. And in the year 2020, two such of these bears broke in and infiltrated a Russian nuclear submarine before one was ran off and the other was killed. Like other bears, they typically eat berries, roots, tubers, fish, insects, and nuts, although they are not adverse to going after large game, with well-documented cases of them hunting deer, waterfowl, and even seals. They can be distinguished from other bears by their wider skulls, large size, and distinctive coat color. Next up is the water deer, also known as the vampire deer. It is a small species of cervid native to China and the Korean peninsula. It is quite unique amongst deer, as they both lack antlers and sport a pair of short, downward-pointing tusks. They have become invasive in both Great Britain and France, where it appears that the deer's strong preference for a particular habitat, that being tall reed and grass areas along deltas, has restricted its spread from across the European continent. Typically solitary animals, water deer use their distinctive tusks for territorial fights. Confrontations between males begin when the animals walking slowly and stiffly towards each other, before turning to walk parallel to assist each other. They attempt to chase one another off. However, if the confrontation is escalated further, the bucks will try to wound each other by slashing and stabbing their rivals' head, shoulders, and back with their tusks. Fights are seldom lethal, but can regularly cause fairly severe injuries. Like elk, they are quite the vocal cervid, communicating with each other with a mixture of barks, whistles, squeaks, and clicks. Water deer have been known to produce up to 7 young, but 2 or 3 is normal for this species, making them amongst the most prolific of all deer species. Next up is the ribbon eel, also known as the ribbon moray, the leaf-nosed moray, or the Burnus eel. It is a species of moray eel and the only member of the genus Rhinomoracina. The ribbon eel is a creature bearing resemblance to the mythical Chinese dragon, with a long, thin body and high dorsal fins. The ribbon eel can easily be recognized by its expanded anterior nostrils. They are well known for their characteristic jaws that are frequently held open very widely, especially when somebody, like a scuba diver, approaches. They typically hunt invertebrates such as shrimp, cephalopods, and scallops. And it is interesting that based on observed color changes, it is generally considered to be a bidirectional hermaphroditic species, where the eel can change between sexes depending on its surroundings. Next up is the coconut crab, which is a species of large terrestrial hermit crab, also known as the robber crab or the palm thief. Unlike other hermit crabs, adults don't wear shells, but the young do. The adults just simply get too big for most shells. It is the largest land-living arthropod in the world, with a weight of up to 10 pounds and a length of around 3.5 feet from tip to tip of each leg. It gets its name from its ability to crack open coconuts with its massive claws. They are found on islands across the Indian Ocean, from the western coast of Africa, as well as to the part as far east as as far east as the Pacific Ocean islands such as the Gambier Islands. They typically dig and sleep in burrows, but are quite adept for an arboreal lifestyle as well. Like many crabs, mating occurs on dry land, but females return to the edge of the sea to release their fertilized eggs, and they retreat back up the beach to continue their life of terrestrial life. Adult coconut crabs feed primarily on fleshy fruits, coconuts, seeds, and the pith of fallen trees. But they will eat carrion opportunistically, even going as far to kill nesting birds, rats, and reptiles. Anything left unattended on the ground is a potential source of food for them, which they investigate and may carry away, thereby giving them their alternate name of the robber crab. Coconut crabs' propensity for eating basically anything has led to a popular idea that they help facilitate the disappearance of Amelia Earhart and her navigator Fred Newman. According to this unproven theory, coconut crabs on the island of Nikumaroro may have come upon Earhart's body after she crash landed, and then dismembered and removed her remains across the island. Parts of a skeleton whose measurements match the description of Amelia Earhart were discovered on Nikumaroro by a British colonial officer in 1940, although who these remains belong to has never been completely confirmed. Next up is the Chinese alligator, also known as the Yangtze alligator, the China alligator, or historically as the muddy dragon. It is a crocodilian endemic to China. It and the American alligator are the only living species of the genus alligator of the family Alligatoridae. Alligatoridae. At 7 feet long and roughly 100 pounds, they are relatively small for a crocodilian. They are native to the temperate forests of China and are one of the few large reptiles known to hibernate. They are opportunistic feeders, primarily eating fish and invertebrates. A vocal species, adults bellow during the mating season, and young vocalize to communicate with their parents and their juveniles. Captive specimens have reached the age of 70, and wild specimens can live as long as 50. Originally quite widespread throughout the Asian continent, living as far away as Japan, it is believed to be the inspiration of the Asiatic dragon. However, beginning around 5000 BC, multiple threats such as habitat destruction caused the species' population and range to decline. Population in the wild is about 1,000 individuals in the 1970s, and then steadily decreased to below 130 in 2001. It grew slightly after around 2003, with its population now being up to around 300 due to conservation efforts. Thankfully, while it's critically endangered in the wild, captive breeding programs in zoos have been quite successful, with at least 20,000 individuals being kept in zoos and aquariums around the world. And our extinct animal of the week is the Apatosaurus. The Apatosaurus is a genus of herbivorous sauropod dinosaur that lived in North America and Europe during the late Jurassic period. Othniel Charles Marsh described and named the first known species, A. ajax, in 1877 during the legendary Bone Wars. Alligators, which was a competition between himself and the rival scientist Edward Drinker Cope for who could discover the most extinct species. Apatosaurus stood 15 feet tall at the hips and weighed as much as 45 tons. It measured around 75 feet long. It had 4 massive pillar-like legs, an extremely long whip-like tail which it used as a defensive weapon against predators such as Allosaurus, Torvosaurus, and Ceratosaurus. Although originally thought to be a semi-aquatic hippopotamus-like animal, many lines of evidence, including the skeletal structure and footprints, show that Apatosaurus and all sauropods were highly evolved terrestrial animals. At its discovery, it was originally considered to be one of the largest land animals of all time. And although it has since been dethroned several times over as the largest animal by its enormous sauropod cousins such as Brachiosaurus and Argentinosaurus, it is still quite notable for submitting to the public just how titanic, terrifying lizards could be. As always, take care to my guys, gals, and non-binary pals.